thought what we will do today is I'm going to lay out a GT, which is called Grand Tableau, and most people who read Lenormand cards will actually understand what GT is, and a lot of Lenormand readers get really scared about reading Grand Tableau, but I thought I'll show you actually how simple it is. So I hope a few people might join me, and feel free to comment in here and we can join in and see what we can do. So I'm using my Miss Tea Cowl tea leaf reading cards. This is my first prototype deck. That's why they look small. This was the deck that I did and done before we went to print. So, and oh, hello, June, Manny, Grey Horses, and Facebook user that says, "Mama, I'm gathering that's you, Mel," because the restream here doesn't show me the names of people when they come through the group. So what I'm going to do is try and get this up really high, and hopefully I can get all our cards in. Now, Misty Cow is a 45 card deck, so I'm actually laying out 5 rows of 9. So 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then I'll position everything so we can get it in line. So when you're laying out Grand Tableaus, those of you who are Lenormand card readers, most of you will know a Grand Tableau where you lay out either 4 rows of 9 or you do 4 rows of 8 and then your bottom line of 4, which is your line of fate. Tea cards are read nearly identical to Lenormand GTs, and only it's more cards. That's the biggest difference, is there's a few more cards. So let's get all these out, and then we can start pulling it all apart. So just want to get here, nearly there. I know it's a lot of cards, isn't it? So let's get them down. All right, so from my end here, it says I've got everything in screen. So if you can see it all in screen, or if there's anything cut off, let me know. So the biggest thing is when we're looking at a GT, before we go digging in, is they are like reading lots of boxes or series of lines, which you can read lines of 3, lines of 5, boxes of 9, and so on. The main difference is with a lot of Lenormand, where they'd say the significator or the topic person is looking, or, that's topic person. So they would say everything on its right is the future and everything on the behind it is the past. That's some ways of reading Lenormand. With tea, we always have a look at where the significators are and which direction they are actually looking. So if I was reading this as a man, and I was not pulling apart something we already know has happened, I would be looking at the man and I would say, okay, he's looking this direction. If I was reading for the woman, she'd look in that direction. So the directions are key when you are reading Grand Tableau with tea cards. I tend to read Lenormand identical to tea. The main reason is, many people are not aware, Lenormand cards actually are based on coffee symbols, tea and coffee symbols, which is tasseography. Pardon me. So let's get into this. So like I said, we're reading in sections and boxes of 9. And the topic I thought let's have a look at, and I wanted to pick it apart, was the Titan submersible. And it's just dreadful. And let's hope all these people that are lost, their souls have gone to a better place. And all we can do is have great sympathy for their families and their friends and loved ones. So it was just shocking and something that should never have happened, knowing what a lot of us know now. So what I thought we would look at is we'll use the man as Stockton Rush himself. The company of Ocean Gate I would look at as the castle because it's an organisation. I'm also want to look at the scales, which is about the legal matters around it. And the vessel itself, if you've got a deck where you've got the ship, I would say use the ship as the vessel itself. With this particular deck, the vessel, we could either use the plane or the car as the vessel. So I'd probably go a plane more so than a car because, it's high end. Yeah, either one you could use. If, like I said, you've got a ship, use a ship as the vessel itself. I'm trying to think what other ones we would have a look at. The eye is going to be very important because it tells us what intuitive senses that we should have looked at, perhaps. The letter we will look at as the disclaimer, what do they call that? Is it no, not NDA. The waiver that the people signed where it said, there is death on so many pages. Yeah. So, Alicia Beza, I think it's Spanish you're speaking in. I'm sorry, but I don't speak Spanish, so I've got no idea what you're telling me there. So let's start here. Stockton Rush. Wow. Clever man, intelligent. Was it his ego just got out of hand? Was he pushing the buttons and everything out of hand? Sorry, let me put my phone on silent. Do not disturb. So Stockton Rush himself. So I'm looking at this line. When we are looking at these, cards above them often is about what's on their mind or what's going on in the brain matter. Cards below is often what they know. I often say cards below them are things that's like they're sitting on or they're stuffing under the cushion on the chair, which is often suppressing things. So wine glasses above him would have told me man with many celebrations, man with many, many achievements, which was lovely. Sitting below him, it's funny, we've got the fish, which is underwater. Fish would tell me, yes, he was a wealthy and abundant man. The mermaid is interesting, which often tells us there was two sides to the person. And I had this conversation yesterday with our lovely Mel Bright about mermaid. Mermaid is often the devil in the blue dress, which can show a side of beauty, but can also be a side with great problems and cause harm. So we've got here the two sides there, and that sitting under him would tell me he has been suppressing that, or he did suppress that a lot. And the umbrella is protective. I find that a really interesting card underneath him because umbrella is about protection and sheltering from problems or storm, and it often means sheltering from minor issues. These were not minor issues. But that I can't help was he trying to hide some issues here from what we know now? So very interesting when we look at just his direct line. The contract, yep, that's what we were looking at was the contract. I couldn't get it right. So, yep, so contract waiver, disclaimer. So that's interesting. So we can then read in series of things around him. So if I'm looking at that, hang on, say, I've got some paper here. So when you're pulling apart your GT and if you're learning it, it's a good idea is block out the other sections because then your eyes are not going to the other sections to influence anything here when this is what we are looking at. So Stockton, the man himself. Now, when I read a box of 9, I tend to look at the centre card as the heart of the matter. Sorry, I'm a little stuck for words at the moment because I've just been yelling at a telco company, as we do. So let me just have a drink of tea. So we often look at that as the heart of the matter. So when you read a box of nines, the way I do it is I look at the centre and I construct all little mini sentences from the centre card. So man and heart, passionate man. Man with many celebrations, which means he's achieved an awful lot in his lifetime, which he did. He was very a clever, amazing man. Man with grapes would still tell me abundant in multiple areas of his life. Man with candle, very visionary. Candle is often the light source, so it tells me man with many ideas, man who worked hard, literally can be burning the candle at both ends. Man and woman, his wife, her name was Wendy Rush, from what I know. Her herself was known as his 2IC, second in command. So, yes, he was married, and she was a very big part of Ocean Gate and his expeditions. Man with fish, man who's, yes, again, fortunate, lucky, money, abundant. Man with ring, he was definitely on a mission, because ring, I often say, is think of it like a telescope. It's like what is in his line of sight, and man of values. So man with an axe, that really throws something different because it can be very reckless. So we can then look at, okay, at the top row there is often the desires or the hopes, the dreams. So passionate victories in many areas of his life. And he did, he wanted to be known for this. When we look at what the current situation, axe means, yes, he's gone. But again, man that was probably reckless, but again, the candle, spiritual enlightenment, still tells me again about disconnections of the man, so he's in the spirit world. And often when we look at the bottom, that can be contributing factors and things like that. So, which is again, woman that he was married to, again, abundant woman, very clever, lots of friendly people. So we're looking at that. We can then look at corners. So again, you're constructing lots of mini sentences. So passion with great abundance. Yes, she was there to rely on, and the commitment to this, but he was committed to the project. We can then read the inner cross as well. He was there, things that, again, achievement, victories and celebrations that brought him into the light with, again, great abundance, but it was cut short. So we are looking at him. So let me just move. Oops, now I've got to move things out of line. Hang on. I know that was there. Oops. No, princess, get off. Sorry, cat loves my cards. I won't put the paper on because I'll move it all again. So that's looking at him. Him looking in his forward direction. Cutting and hat, because then we're looking at this line. Cutting the hat, yeah, he was literally cut down. The sad thing is too, though, now that they have passed, all these people are coming out into the spotlight, and they're undermining him. So it can be undermining by people in positions of power. So then let's have a look at the company itself and Ocean Gate when I'm looking at the castle. So again, I'm looking at that box of 9. Castle and the scales, as we know, that ain't good. So lots of legal things going on left, right and centre. And the reason why there's legals going on left, right and centre, because Ocean Gate is a registered company in Bahamas, and all these lawyers have popped up out of the woodwork, and they're saying that these waivers and contracts are null and void in the US and Canada and all the other countries. Not sure, I don't know the legals of the law on there, but it sounds to me they have a very good angle to look at. So let's leave that for the courts, but I'll come back to that. So company in legal matters. Company with Rose. Rose is about bloom and grow and show. they've already announced further expeditions for 2024, which I was absolutely blown away, but they're planning for June 2024. So again, they're holding their head up high. Interesting to see clock, because clock there would tell me time is running out on Ocean Gate. Castle and house, home and family. And when I'm reading for a client, these two should never, ever, ever be together unless it is your own business or you work for yourself, which just literally means family business. But families are also involved here. Sorry, I'm upside down. Castle and shooting star. Shooting star is a light source, and it often means like once in a lifetime opportunities, and grab them when you see them. So again, something that they have achieved, but it still tells me, is there a rabbit they're going to pull out of the hat that we are not expecting? More than likely. They're very innovative. Castle and pipe. Pipe is the wisdom of mature aged people, and pipe tends to be masculine energy. So it does tell me they need to look at the wisdom or the maturity from older advisors. I find that fascinating too. And again, we're seeing everywhere all these old military people and Navy people and so on, scientists and astronauts and all that stuff. So it just tells me older men, wisdom of people within the company there. Company and lantern. Lantern is safe journey, but it's those of you who are old enough may know. A lot of people don't know the history now. You remember the story of Florence Nightingale, who was a nurse during the war, and she was known to keep the lights burning overnight, to keep the soldiers alive during the night. So lantern is very similar to that. So it means safe passage, no matter how slim the chances may be, but it often means while there is light, there is hope. So it still means there is positivity still around Ocean Gate. And it's interesting, bells, because bells and the company would tell me go big and go large, which means marketing, advertising, shout outs. Bells is like they're literally standing on the steps and crowing about their achievements and their work, which, yeah, they have. So it is here where they are remaining in the public eye. So again, we can look at the top row there, which is about the desires and so on. They can be the concerns. Like you can look at these in things. You can go hopes and desires, the situation and contributing factors, or we can go concern, situation, undercurrent. It doesn't really matter. You can go past, present, future. It's however you want to read your boxes of 9. I'll pop up in the group a little later after this. I've actually done it's a screenshot, boxes and a paperwork, and I have it when I teach my Chinese students, which I know there's a few of you watching now, which is wonderful to see. Of when I teach, hang on, let me find that. Yeah. I'll put this up in, it is in Mandarin as well as English. So I'll put this up so you've got this in the group to help learn read your boxes of 9. So looking at the company itself, let's say this top row concerns, yes, legal matters, running out of time in legal matters, and it is in the public eye. The rose is visual, so, and they are trying to remain in a positive visual light with whether they've got all these legal matters going on, literally around them. So the situation, family business, that is public. So the undercurrent, when I look at that again, is something that can come up out of the blue. An older advisor may be the person to blow this up and speak out. And the lantern again would still tell me something comes to light when they least expect it. So what about poor Wendy Rush? She's lost her husband, and now she's also trying to deal with this entire fallout. And I think this is the problem with so much media and things are looking at it. These were people's loved ones, you know. She lost the man who she spent her life with. And it's really gut-wrenching that they've lost so many loved ones. And then the poor dear lady who lost the husband and the son. It's just devastating. So Wendy herself, what is really lovely is when I see any GT and the people are touching somehow, because it tells me they're connected. And the connection, even with the candle, would tell me they're still spiritually connected, which is really lovely. Here again, she's got light and she's got grapes, which means, yes, she might be laying a little low, but she's still literally in the spotlight. She's learnt a lot, things that have come to light. We've also got the grapes here, which still tells me multiple areas of abundance that she does have and can look at. The interesting things under her, which is, again, I often say, what is she suppressing? We've got triangle, which is complex situations, and the drum, which is something about to be, I look at that as something complex that she is suppressing or hiding that can literally be exposed. Drum is listen to the rhythm around you. It's leadership. It is... they used to send the drummer in before the battle, as they say, but they would just tell me, yes, complex matters that can come out, and the drum would tell me they're going to come out pretty loud and clear, and that's probably why she's madly suppressing these matters. So her box of 9, yes, she's connected still to Stockton. Candles, again, is enlightenment, what she's got here. Spirit and Sage, the reading we are looking at is about the Titan submersible and the implosion. So for those of you who have just come on a little bit late, we are looking at Stockton Rush, we're looking at Ocean Gate, the company, we're looking at the legal matters, we're looking at the submersible itself, the equipment, when the lady is Wendy Rush. So that's what we're reading. The lady with her eye, which tells me she is having to open up every senses that she has right now. And that is probably the hardest part of all, while she's trying to grieve and then put out all the fires. Lady and letter, which tells me lots of paperwork, documents, emails, again, the contracts, the waivers, disclaimers, what have you. She's here and probably very intertwined with those. Lady in Grave. Grave is an interesting card, and everybody thinks, oh God, who's going to die? She's already suffered enough. The grave often is literally a box with a lid on it, and it often is, don't look back to the bones of the past, but the grave's still attached to her, which is the grieving, and we can even see that in the diagonals. Lady in Triangle, complex lady, many areas that she's got to work around. It's very good in a lot of ways because it means she's very analytical mind and she can actually structure things quite well. Lady and Mermaid, what is it again that we're only seeing one side of it, we're not seeing the other side of her? So it's like, is she putting on the facade? Of course she would be. Lady and Fish, fish is money, prosperity, good luck and opportunity. Interesting, it is behind her rather than in front of her. So again, concerns, Stockton, loss of him herself, Candle, she still has the senses and picks up on him in his spirit world. She knows this situation of, yes, money matters and so on with contracts. That's what's going on around her now. What's the undercurrent? Literally, yes, the death, the closure of complex matters. And Mermaid, the same thing, is what you want people to see and what you don't want people to see. So what's going on? League, and actually, no, I won't go legals yet. I want to actually look at submersible itself, the Titan itself. I'm looking at as the plane. And when you have a card that's an end card, whether it's on an end here, or a top or a bottom, or it's over here, and you haven't got your box of 9, you can either do transposition, which transpositions is where you take the mirrored cards to here, or if it was up here, you would take them to there, and so on. but I'm just going to actually read its cluster cards, so of what it's around. So the submersible itself with bridge tells me, yes, they probably overcome some matters with the submersible. We've got the ring, probably because of the value of the equipment itself, but the ring is precious commodity, which, yes, it was very millions of dollars, the vessel itself. The child, yes, it was small, as we know, and squishy and all the rest of it, but it's again small things around the submersible. This is a bit alarming when you see a skull, because the skull is often the headspace or the shadows, which, what is it that he didn't show or expose? Kisses here is literally blowing it off to say, nah, it's all good. Yeah, she'll be right, mate, is like the typical Aussies would say, when we know very well it wasn't. So when I'm looking at the whole line of that, of the vessel itself, hang on, I need another mouthful. Looking at the line itself, we've got the hat, which tells me again mature aged men, which a lot of them were, except for Solomon, the son, who was only 19, only a babe. But it's again advises about the submersible. And it's interesting, the telephone, because that's communication, so which literally tells me high-powered or people in high places and communication trying to overcome problems around the vessel itself were blown off. So that's how you string your cards together to form the storyline. I'll just go off tangent for a sec. When you are reading either Lenormand or T, they are symbolic divination forms, and it is just the same if you had charms, you had coins, anything like that is classified symbolic divination, and symbolic divination is one of the most accurate and simple forms of reading in our modern world. So when I'm looking at these, I am literally stringing the sentence together. And it's funny how you shuffle and lay these out, and you couldn't get more raw if you tried. Like I said, speaking, talking, communication, people in high places, overcoming obstacles around the vessel itself, and literally it's like the kiss off. So kiss off, Kiss, not P. So very interesting looking at that. Again, even if we look at the two for, concerns, overcoming problems may have cost a lot, but again, he continued this, even knowing the problems. The child, did he underestimate these problems? Probably, because it's like small issues. Headspace in there is, again, reckless headspace and kissing off or blowing it off. It's almost like, was he really aware just how serious these things were? So we then want to ask a further question, and I can't help but look, but when I'm looking at this as what I'd say a transposition, if I'm moving those there, canon actually literally would be the explosion, which isn't good. So, like I said, a transposition reading is when you do this. So, not a lot of people do, it's just a technique. And that's if I wanted to complete the box of 9. And we've got a cannon, literally, where it blew to smithereens. Butterfly, again, is literally temporary, scattered all over the place. Horseshoe, luck. But it's interesting when you look at these three is where the luck was ran out. Again, headspace wasn't right. Can't help but feeling, and it's really important too to listen to the senses. Some people, I always say the voices in my head, they talk to me, and I know I sound completely batshit crazy there, but that's, I hear. Some people will see, some people it's touch, but I hear. So, and that I'm hearing is his headspace was not in a good place. Even headspace with child would have told me immaturity. So what actually, what was the circumstances, if we really want to look at, of why did it implode? There would have told me it started small. I can't help but feel like small matters started to happen. It may have been cracks or leaks. Again, we've got skull, which in that would have told me the cracks probably started happening in the top or above. Here would have told me he may have tried to simplify it, probably trying to keep people from panic. But again, your luck was temporary when it imploded. Ring is also really interesting because that literally can represent, was it the break point of one of those rings where the vessel and the way it was actually constructed, where it was the cylinder and the two rings and then it had the cone and so on. There would have told me what fell apart was became part of one of the rings. Because I know there's topics about did it happen from the viewing window, which was huge, big, thick glass or acrylic. They would have told me no, it happened at one of the rings. The cannon, like I said, literally blew to smithereens. That would have been so fast, and that's the only thing that we have in to look at is this happens so quick. And I'd look at this and say in a matter of seconds, where he might have thought, oh shit moment, but it happened, and it happened so fast. So coming back then, when you look at Ocean Gate itself, you know, why did they, when you look at this about, did they follow protocols? So I'd look at book about, you know, legislations and the safety measures and so on, because yes, it would be written matter somewhere. So we look at this, and clock there again would have told me he was pushing things probably nowhere near enough time. Again, I'm looking at the line, and when I'm looking at the things underneath, they are the suppression. So it's again looking at time wasn't on this side. He was probably pushing it, or he didn't want to go through all that time wasting what he considered. The house is about security and groundedness, which tells me no, he thought everything was right. The shooting star was unexpected surprises, which he really probably didn't want. And the mask is probably interesting as well, because again, is concealment. I look at that and say he didn't go through the safety protocols because he knew there was a problem. And that is a big issue in itself. Question mark is sitting behind the book, and when I'm looking at them, question mark is, yep, doubts, but it'll be okay. The car or the automobile, I call it here, some people call it vehicle, tells me literally soldiering forward. No, I'm on a mission. I'm taking this. Oh, hello, Sula. Long time no see. Lovely to see you there. And the car is moving forward, full steam ahead at speed. Car is often offload the passengers and the baggage you do not need. When looking at the books there, would have told me he didn't want to go through these protocols because he probably looked at it and just thought, nah, it's just all bullshit. Cards here is about strategy and the gamble. And there is, he probably didn't want to tempt them shutting him down. Clock, like I said, running out of time, or he didn't have time to do this. He said, I'm doing this and we're doing it on this date, and regardless of protocol. The rose is about display, which I'd look at this as, say, the public eye, which is he wanted to show everything in the positive light and that it was all good and everything else, which is interesting about the protocol. So he was a very wealthy man. OceanGate was a, multi-million-dollar company as such, but there's a lot of stuff talking about him as the man. Why was he grappling for money and so on? And I'll look at the money, but I've seen different docos and things because it absolutely fascinates me. And I know when they were all looking for all those days for the submersible itself, where I did look into this in my Facebook group. But I've since seen docos and things. This man, he flew around the country to all these big and powerful businessmen and multimillionaires to entice people to come on this journey, this expedition. There was one where he actually flew his own plane, again, that wasn't registered to standards and protocols, into some private airport in Nevada. And he flew into Nevada to meet this man and his son, to entice them to go on this expedition. And so he was willing to just went everywhere to try and entice all these people to go on it. So was this about the money? He was practically giving away these spots because he wanted the notoriety, which comes down to the ego of the man. But when we look at the money in the eye, which tells me there's probably a lot of things that were going on that we don't know about the financial state of the company. Again, when I look at the line, we've got letter, which is, yes, the contracts around it, but the contracts around the money. So they had to pay $250,000 to get a ticket. We've got the grave. Grave there would have told me that their money's in the shit show, because it literally means money losses. So, which, yes, they would have lost millions now, but there would have told me, when we're asking the question, what was the money situation, there would have told me they were probably losing money left, right and centre, and why they needed this to be a hit. Medicine bottle is the health and well-being, the status, which again tells me money matters for this company was not in a good state to start with. Looking at the clusters around it, grapes tells me money in multiple areas, and when I see it, like I'd say it as money problems. Money in comb, lots of little problems that he couldn't push through. Money and scales, legal matters, contracts left, right and centre. I hear is he knew it. They both knew it. The whole company knew it. Money and candles would have told me, again, a light of hope of things changing. So they weren't in a good place money-wise. So what about all these legals? These, again, it's very interesting because OceanGate is a registered company in the Bahamas, and all these bigwig lawyers now have come out and said these contracts are null and void in US and Canada, wherever, because that's not in the registered country of OceanGate. So there's obviously some little legal loophole. But looking at the legal matters here, comb here would tell me lots of little problems, and it's almost like an accumulation. Again, I'm looking at the line. What's above it is what is seen, what's below it is the suppressions. So lots of problems with the contract, and it's almost like, yes, he might have put you can have death 3 times on the first page, but it tells me there was probably a lot of other things wrong in the contract as well. Sorry, I'm knocking my table. Contract and question mark, lots of doubts. Bad choose of words here, but how watertight was this contract? And when I see that there, it would have told me, not very, lots of holes in it. Contract about money, yes, $250,000 each head. Money and I, contract and I. People can see this. People can see through this. What they thought they had it as, yes, a watertight contract. No. Contract and rose. Contracts being shown, exposed, handed out. Contracts, yes, OceanGate, the company. Contracts and bells. Contracts that are made public information. Contract and the letter, or legal and the letter, again, would still tell me, yes, it was a written contract. contract in the line, lantern here, or legals in the lantern would still tell me there's an opening or an avenue where people will be suing these people. The boot here is interesting too, because I would look at that and say it isn't just the families of these people who died. Boot is often other people stepping into the ring. And I'd look at that and say it ain't just the people and their families. I would say there is a lot of other people going to enter into this legal matters. And this can be the suppliers and how they're bagged, the Kevlar people and how they're bagging, even right down to the adhesives used and things like that, where there's a lot of defamation and stuff. So Boot here would tell me this is going to be a big lawsuit. I can't see this being small, and I can't see how they're going to get out of it, because even when I'm looking at Castle of Ocean Gate, I'm looking at the diagonals, which I call the line of sight. We've still got literally legals and money and settlements. So they're going to have an awful drawn out battle, and I would say it's going to be a lot of people involved, and it's going to be very public, where a lot of things are coming out, because that's your public, that's the public and the contract, things being shown. Legals with a question mark, again, is so many things and doubts where they probably thought it was right, but it's not going to work, because comb means working through teething matters. So literally think of a comb of going through, say you got hair, not like me, and you're brushing your hair down to the bottom and you're working out those last few knots at the bottom. Comb means working through the knots, which still means the legal matters, they will succeed. They will have a windfall, because there would tell me public matters that are being displayed, there's money. So, whether they never paid a cent, there's going to be some big legal exposure going on here, which is really quite sad. And that's just really, really sad to see what's going on with it. So, but lawsuits left, right, and centre. So when we are looking, we can layer on these as well. So you can actually go through your charms. I've got a massive big charm bucket here, and I'm just going to actually just lay a couple. I want to look about the castle. We've got the snail, which snail is things that move slowly. The snail is protective, and when feels it's in danger, it literally pulls its head in, which is, yes, they probably are trying to lay low. You got your koala bear, and your koala bear is very nurturing, and it literally is hanging on, but it's nurturing, which is, are they trying to still look at it and say we're a family company and we're trying to look after our people and so on. Which is interesting couple of charms. So what is it around the legals? Oops, hang on, what went under there? You got your castle again. We've got the thermometer, which is a medical symbol. We've also got the Milagro heart, which means miracles can happen. And we've also got, like I said, the castle. This is the sand castle, though. There is a difference. And I'll bring this up to show you. This is a sand castle. It's actually got the sand in the bucket, the spade there, which means child's play. And the health and well-being, again, of the legal contracts, which still means they might try to dismiss things as minor or literally game child's play, but the well-being, there is things that will come to light. And like Milagro Heart would tell me, there's going to be a lot of positivities that come out of some of these legals, which is a good thing, because it means that it will be seen or will be exposed. So I'm just trying to think of other areas where we can have a dig at this. I suppose the big thing is if we look at the book, not just as the registrations, we can look at it about what have we learned from this as well. So we've learned literally doubts, they need to be looked at. If something doesn't feel right, it needs to be stopped. The old saying is when in doubt, don't, should have been adhered to. The car is again, slow down. Some of the things need to take time. Lessons here with the clock is again patience and time. Lessons with cards, there's got to be a strategy in place. And playing cards, yes, they are a gamble, but a wealthy gambler has a plan and a strategy in knowing what they are doing. It's when to hold it and when to show it, which means there should have been a lot more planning, strategy, and things before this went ahead. Lessons here with the rose. Beauty is not always as it seems. It's, there is thorns along the way. Lessons here with the house. Look at what is literally physical when we think of the house, of structural, that should have been looked at, but what was grounded, and again looking at the home and family of would you allow or expose this to your own without looking at something much deeper. Lessons with the shooting star. There can be miracles that happen but you need to look at them in all the right light. And mask is, again, if at first you don't see something and you're only seeing the surface, stop, pause and look again, because it's literally like they had rose-coloured glasses on. But some of the lessons is rip off the Band-Aid and look at things deep. It's got to be something that you look at and exposed in how you are doing so. Stockton Rush was a very amazing man, extremely intelligent and clever. And it's really a sad, sad loss with the intelligence that he had, but it was reckless. And I can't help, the first thing I said when this had all happened was the word ego. And let that get away. And some people do that, which isn't good. So looking at him himself, turtle or tortoise, again, is about protection. It often is take things slower. It can be nurturing and maternal. We've got the bat, tells me again, extremely smart and clever man, but literally blind. And it's almost, again, can't see the forest for the trees. We've got the cactus, which means, yes, can grow under extreme conditions, and he did work under extreme conditions. Prickly, yes. And he's also got the car key, which still means, again, a man who was on a mission, full steam ahead. It's like, let's go and do this, let's race. And the car is moving very fast and not looking at the sidelines. But he was a passionate man about his projects, of what he did. And that's probably the saddest part of all. So why didn't he take notice of the advisors? Because of the vessel itself, there would have told me. People, very highly respected people in high places and telephone, looking at that line, would have told me lots of conversations and communication on how to overcome some of these issues. A bridge is not a broken bridge. It means where you stand today and where you are going and what's in between. And an unbroken bridge like this tells me, yes, you can overcome problems. And there is good advice from an older person, mature age people, to overcome the problems of the vessel itself. Again, kisses is the flip off. It's literally, no, it's all good. When they say bye-bye, Felicia. Which is really, really sad. And I just look, why did he not listen to these advisors, and that's the hard part, you know, which is really sad, you know, and it's like, why? We've got the fly. He literally saw them as a pest. That's a guillotine, where they used to chop off the heads. And guillotine and fly, he dismissed it. It's like, no, he just thought they were probably minor annoyances and that he knew that it was all good to go, and it wasn't all good to go. So, which is not good. Yeah, Karen, it is really sad if they'd only taken the time. And again, the fools rush in. But he thought he was right. And this is where I look at it and think the ego entered the room. And once the ego entered the room, everything went out the door, which is really sad. So is there any areas that you guys would like me to have a look at, or any questions? So, like I said, it's not so scary to pick apart a big reading like this. All you are doing is breaking them down into mini sections. And any one of these cards you can look at as a mini section. Like even here, when we look at the wine glass and it's above Stockton himself, would have told me the victories and the celebrations. And looking even at just those three, his passion, there was multiple areas of celebrations and victories, which tells me he was probably a very highly recognised man in this, in his skills. So when we look at that, even if we look at the grave of the people who we've lost or that have died, and we look at that as a box of 9, we've got Lady, which tells me, yes, Wendy is grieving herself. It's just dreadful, and any children they've had. We've got the losses here and the letter, which tells me people are probably madly scrambling, going through this contract with a fine-tooth comb. Bells, where it's literally gone public. Lantern would still tell me light of hope for the souls that have gone. Can't help again when I say I feel and hear. There would tell me souls at peace, because Lantern is safe. So it's like this happened so quick. It happened. They were all gone within probably milliseconds. But there would tell me souls have found light. The deaths with the boot, yes, many areas. Boot is stepping up and stepping forward, which, yeah, there is a lot of people that are going into bat. The souls and the medicine. Medicine is the health and well-being. Well, we know they're all dead. The deaths and drum is, again, listen to the beat within. And the drums is, once again, can go public. So it's like people crowding together. And triangle is complex situations. So lots of people see triangles, it's 3-sided. It's a complex situation, but it is a point. So it does mean you can work through complex situations, but you're still rising upwards. It's first and foremost means good luck, actually. Triangle is about good luck. And there would tell me, yeah, that was complex and luck ran out with grave, literally closed. So, which is not good. So, what's going on about these souls now? It's nice to see the peace sign, which would tell me there is peace for the souls. The basketball hoop is literally play, or the game of play. Yes, this man played with lives, but he didn't see it that way. But it would still tell me, though, life goes on and there is still things that are good to find out of it. The handcuffs there is, yes, the restrictions and the suffering. This here is really cute. It's actually a crown, which tells me souls elevated to a high place. But the most important there is the peace sign, which tells me there was no suffering. This was all too quick. It's not like somebody who had major injury and then took hours and hours. There would have told me souls are at peace, which is really good to see. And yeah, So is there any other area anybody wants to have a look at? I know there's not many people here, but I'll leave the video up because I do think it's a good learning curve on how you can pull apart a reading. Like I said, it's not so scary when you just break them all up into mini sections. So just trying to think of another topic there. Umbrella, I keep feeling, what is it again? What was the, he was trying to protect. And when I'm looking at the line of 3 with the protection here, skull here tells me protection over something that was very negative. And skull is headspace, which tells me it's like he bottled it and he just didn't want people to see, and there's something that he knew wasn't quite right. Drum here was again public, and drum is being seen, being heard. Is this again what he was trying to not have anybody discover? Because that is like, no, I'm going to hide this. And when you look at concealment altogether, you look at mask, it's like, what do you want people to see? Is just, the beauty on the outside. You want people to see the real you. And again, when I'm reading just the line of 3 and then the clusters around it, bellows is passion, or what drives them in the gut. And then you've got luck and horseshoe here. So again, concealment, luck and horseshoe, yes, that's what he wanted people to see. What was burning or fire on the inside is sitting behind it, which means he didn't want them to see. And when I say sitting behind, these, pay attention to the directions, right? So mask is looking that way and bellows is looking that way. Horseshoes is looking that way. So this tells me what was seen, what he didn't want seen. So, yeah, he wanted to see people see the good juju, not the bad juju, and what was literally burning within him and the company and what was going on. Again, the clusters. Butterfly is very flippant in nature. Shooting star is miraculous things, once in a lifetime opportunity. Interesting again, we've got the pipe sitting behind, and pipe is older ancestors and wisdom, which still comes right back up here, is he didn't listen to any of the older advisors. So I haven't actually dug in to find out much about it, but I know I've seen something. There's all these old high-tech people. I think that was with NASA and high-end Navy people who dealt with submarines and things like that. But it's interesting to see, again, turning his back on older advisors, and here not listening to older advisors, literally seeing older advisors as a hindrance because it's a pest and chop their heads off. No, get out of the way. And it is interesting. So not sure. It just says Facebook user who said very informative or so much to listen to. I'm not sure if that's you, Mel, or if it's someone else, because Restream won't show me the names in Facebook group, which is a pain in the butt. So I'm sorry I can't address you, but I'm thinking maybe it's Mel, or it might be Natalie. I'm not sure. Say hello, whoever. It is big readings, but don't ever be afraid to throw them all out, because all you do is just break them up into their lines, their sections, their boxes, because that's basically all it is GT reading means big picture. GT is grand tableau, which is French for big picture. So, and that's all it is. Imagine this is the framework. And the way I explain things when I have my clients here, I always say, imagine I've stirred a cup of tea and I've tipped it out, and this is where all your leaves and the patterns land. And that's the same way as if you are reading a cup. So just think of it as all the leaves and the patterns where we've tipped them out and where they land. And then you are reading all of those sections. So it's not so bad. Yeah, it's not so bad. Canon would be a great card as a topic. For the implosion itself, at the point of, the implosion, how it went bang, literally. Cards is, again, strategy. they lost the gamble. The car is again every directions. So butterfly scattered, which means things that are temporary. So this was never something that was going to last. The horseshoe is again below it, which is suppressed. So literally, luck ran out. It's not good, but really, really, really sad. Yeah. So, which is a shame. I'm just layering again. And you got your four-leaf clover. That's actually a bit of barbed wire. You've got the cello, which is peace and harmony, and you've also got best friends, which tells me, yes, he was a friendly person, good people. He's got the picnic basket, yep, where they all thought this was probably a great expedition and probably took down snacks and so on. Cello is the peace and harmony. But your barbed wire is the painful or caught situation. So would still tell me they may have been actually having a good time at that point of impact or implosion. Barbed wire tells me this again happened fast. Something come undone. And it comes right back to when I look at the plane as the vessel itself, I still think it was one of the rings was the point of impact. What happened? I would say it's one of the rings. So, and where's a pen? Hang on. Let me grab something I'll draw for you. Right. So, where it was like so, and then had its cone part, and it's had its little thing, and there was, I think, a couple of rings there where they were joined. And I actually seeing ring here tells me one of the problems was with these rings, and that's where I think it started, which is almost like the impact here, something that came apart, small, bang, again happens so fast that they probably didn't realise it. And I don't think there would have even been that second to say, oh shit moment. Yeah. So, but if you've got yeah, no, I didn't want to use the tombstone as the significator because I wanted to use Stockton Rush as the man himself. I looked at the tombstone or the grave as the souls that have passed, and that's what I would prefer to use. And so I used the significant points. I've used the man as Stockton himself, the lady as his wife, Wendy Rush, who was his second in command, as they knew her of. The vessel I've used as the plane. If you were using other cards, you'd probably use a ship as a vessel or whatnot. The actual implosion, I've looked at the cannon. The castle I've used as the company itself of Ocean Gate. I've used the letter as the contract or the waivers, the ones they had to sign. And I used the scale as all the legal battles that's going on around now. And I've used money as the financials. Oh, you mean his death closer? Yeah. So it's really sad. Yeah, I look at that there though again as at peace, and that's where I see that as at peace. Yeah. Oh, you're using near and far methods, yeah. So I don't tend to use a lot of the near and far areas. So it is a common linear technique, yeah. So, but I'm just reading and deconstructing it in the boxes there. Yeah, but it's only a couple of spaces from him. It is very near, which is not good. With T, again, we tend to look at where they are facing as well. And we've got Grave facing that direction and he is facing that direction, which again, death was imminent. It was heading towards him, literally creeping up behind him, which isn't good. Yeah, he was certainly a clever man, a man on a mission, but it's still so sad to think that he didn't listen to the advice and the wisdom of those who are a lot more experienced in this area. And this is where I can't help but say ego entered the room. And sadly, it took 5 people. So, or himself and the 4 others. And I can't even imagine the losses that the families are feeling, and especially with all the publicity and things that's come out, you know. And it's sad because, like I said, the portrayals that, you know, he was very driven, egocentric person that didn't give a damn about anybody else. And look, you know, I think that's wrong in a lot of ways. He was a creative, and he was a man highly recognised in many areas. But I think the carelessness and the mistakes in his own excitement, probably he thought he was good and it wasn't. So, and sadly, you can't think like that when you are dealing with other people's lives. Yeah, greed for sure. I actually, so looking at money, and I look at this, I think they were actually in deep financial shit before this. And because there would have told me, again, the line, the well-being of the money, there would have told me money losses left, right and centre. So I don't think they were in a very good financial position, and that's probably why he desperately needed this to be a success. And I don't know why this particular one had to be a success, because they'd made this trip, you know, a few times before. So I don't understand why this was the one that had to be the big successor. So unless he had some other publicity stuff lined up, I don't know. Yeah, don't know. So, any questions, guys? Feel free to ask while we've got it all out here. Go ahead. So, like I said, I know I don't have many people here, but I'll read comments and stuff later. But yeah, I just think it was an interesting topic to have a look at, because it's a topic that is worldwide. Yeah, so if you've got any queries, yeah, it could have been too, Juno. Yeah, because there was a lot of very highly regarded people too. The paper map. Oh, what this is, I'll load this up. This is, I created it only a few weeks ago. It's where I was teaching my Chinese students. I've got, I don't know, 100 odd Chinese students, and so that's why this is in both English and Mandarin. And it's just one simple version or a couple of versions on how you would pull apart your box of 9 and how you lay them out. And you've got option A, you can look at it as hopes, the question, or contributing factors, or you can look at it as current situation or concerned situation, undercurrent, past, present, future. You could read inner crosses and outer crosses, but I'll put this up in the Facebook group if you want to print it out. And it's just to help you pull apart boxes of 9. So, but those of you who purchase cards and stuff from me, you get entry to the free card courses where you learn all the boxes and 9s and things anyway. But it's just to show you it's not so scary. Yeah, luck did run out, literally, and it's the last card too. I often look with a box of 9, and it's just the way I am. Like if I write down, where am I? I'm just looking at a box of 9 there. My eyes are always drawn, yes, to the centre. But I always look at what was an entry card and what's an exit card, because it often is what comes in and what goes out. So, you know, and it's just the way I've always looked at boxes of 9. So, and again, boxes of 9, I start in the centre and I create all the mini sentences around them. So, you know, I is about insight, intuition, the guidance and so on. Let me just put this away. Come here. So you create your mini sentences. So insight, intuition. Intuition and grapes, multiple areas of abundance. Grapes is often not just one area, it means looking in many areas of things, but grapes are generally healing and good. And fruit and vegetables in tea symbology or any symbolic divination tend to be good luck, abundance. Literally think of food on the table. So even if I had that as a potato, it would still mean abundance. So it means insight and intuition abundant. Insight looking at money. Insight trying to work through little problems where they thought it was pissy little things. Insight and the scales, they certainly weren't looking at that, but then he had the insight to get these contracts signed. Insight and bells is very public, it means a whole gathering of people. So again, this was all filmed and documented and that because they wanted this to be the big publicity. Insight with the letter, the waivers, the documents. Insight and the lady who was relevant in this was Wendy Rush, the wife. So again, insight with Wendy. She was she's a really smart, intelligent lady with great insight, but she herself probably didn't realise this. Insight and candle. Candle is illumination, which is again looking at light sources and things that are good. And it can be in its negative though, burning the candle at both ends. So it may have been working too hard and again overlooked it. So, and then you can read your rows, and then you can read your columns and so on. So it's not hard when you pull them apart in little sections like that. So it does make it fairly simple when you're reading them. Often with boxes of nines, you look at an inner cross, and then I look at that as an outer cross. Your inner cross there is often your overall outcomes. Your outer cross can be your summaries. Again, it's really up to you on how you want to dissect your boxes of 9. So there is all sorts of ways, like I said, and you can even break these up into just looking at the 3 cards. You could read them just as 5. You can read the line of 5. If you're going to read your line of 5, you'd look at your central point, and then you can look at these 2 as mirroring and these 2 as mirroring as well. So when you have all card out, which I prefer to read when I have my own clients, it's like this. I look at every single section, and I always say it's a bit like, think of the story Jack and the Beanstalk when he started and he just kept going, because you might start here, but you're weaving and you might up here and you might end up down here, and it's like where you are climbing to. So I think of it as a vine where we're digging and climbing the vine to get the information. So that's quite simple really. So don't be afraid to throw them out and have a go. Yeah, so, well, I hope that helps a little bit, guys. So I can't see any questions. So I think I'll round that off and pack them up for the day. So, but I just want to say thanks for listening anyway, and I'll leave this up, the videos on YouTube as well as Facebook group and the Tea with Karen public page as well. So it's just a simple way to look at them. But anyway, thanks everyone for stopping by and having a look at how we pulled apart and had a look at the Titan. So if you've got any questions, let me know. I'll go through the messages a little bit later, and I'll try and get through any answers of what I need to do. So, but anyway, bye for now, guys.